Hello, I'm Jason Solomons and welcome to a new episode of Seen Anything Good Lately. This podcast is a recommendations show suggesting to you what to watch and read and listen to in the company of some great and artistic types. I find out if they've seen anything good lately and get them to share their secret viewing passions with us.
It's a kind of collection of essays by amazing black men writing about being black in Britain.
Where she takes her hair down in the trial where they're deciding whether or not, she was raped, and the whole audience goes at how beautiful she is. It's just really strange.
We're there more often than we care to think, right? Sat in front of the box tonight, or setting out on a journey, or going for a run. You wonder what you should listen to or watch. So give it a saggle. Saggle it, and let Seen Anything Good Lately be your guide. I'm Jason Solomons, your host, and my guests you heard a bit of just now are Paapa Essiedu and Kelly O'Sullivan. Paapa, one of the risingest stars of British acting, hot off the successes of Gangs of London and his wonderful character Kwame in I May Destroy You. And my second guest has a film out in cinemas now. It's called St. Francis, and she is the writer and star of it, Kelly O'Sullivan. We'll find out what they've been up to and if they've seen anything good lately. And if you want to take part, itching to share your discoveries with us, just get in touch by emailing saggle@jasonsolomons.com. I'd love to hear from you. Go on, join the gang, be a saggler. Right, before we hear what my guests have been watching, I should probably share a few things that I've seen and heard lately. I found a very nicely done French film called The Girl with the Bracelet, La Fille au Bracelet, on Curzon Home Cinema, starring one of my favourite French actors, Roche Dizem, as a father who's totally baffled and scared, I suppose, by the behaviour of his teenage daughter, who is now on a murder trial. It's an elegant, chilly courtroom thriller directed by Stéphane de Moussier. Thoroughly enjoying the new album from Lianne La Havas. Her self-titled latest is her first in 5 years, and she's really matured as an artist, emotionally and musically. It's reflective and soulful. It's definitely on the neo-soul tip, taking on those 90s sounds of India Arie and Erykah Badu, but with a real 21st century slant. And I'm reading the new book by Charlotte Filby, A Double Life, a domestic spy thriller set all around Kentish Town and Camden and Hampstead Heath, with children and husbands and lovers and clammy conspiracies and murders. We'll get Charlotte on the show soon and find out if she's seen anything good lately, apart from shadows. So that's me done for the moment. Allow me now, with great pride, to introduce my first guest. Paapa Essiedu has broken through and become a star in recent months. His Kwame in I May Destroy You is charming and funny, lovely and heartbreaking. His performance in the violent Gangs of London was cool and calm amid the storm. This East Londoner has been on the rise for quite a while though, with an award-winning Hamlet for the RSC and parts in TV's Utopia and Ken Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express movie. So I was delighted that he could join me on Seen Anything Good Lately. The series has just come to an end. People are on tenterhooks about this show. Could you imagine that would be such a talking point?
Yeah, it's kind of mad. I suppose we're so used to right now, a whole series being dropped at once. So you can watch the whole of Ozark or the whole of Sex Education all in one. So we don't really have that kind of water cooler type thing until so I think it's good that this has come out kind of week by week, giving people something to talk about. Similar to The Last Dance, people were going mad for it, weren't they?
Yeah. So was that Michaela's idea? Was that the BBC One's idea? Whose idea was it to do it like that?
I'm pretty sure it was a collaboration. It was a joint decision between all of them lot. I mean, I remember when I was watching it, I couldn't watch more than one episode at a time. I was like, it doesn't make my heart hurt. So,
yeah, well, I think you do. I think you need to digest each episode and say, well, what was that about? And then think about where it could go next. Because the thing about the series, each episode comes and you weren't expecting it. No matter how much you try and sort of anticipate what was coming next, you never know. She surprises you each time.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I suppose for her, it was amazing to be given the freedom to kind of make it up as you go along, I guess. But obviously it's all very deliberate. But the freedom for it not to have to be linear, I think, is really useful as artists. And yeah, obviously all of the episodes speak to each other, but don't necessarily progress in chronological order. And I think, again, it's good to disrupt our expectations like that.
When you saw it, did you see it all together? Did you get it? You had it just dropped you at home, like episode by episode. When were you aware of it as a whole thing?
No, I didn't get the whole thing at once. Like, to be fair, like loads of the first times I saw bits of it was when we do like the ADR recording, which is when you kind of like dub over your own vocals. So I was seeing like snippets of it, but yeah, I got sent some early drafts, maybe like a couple of months or a month before it came out, which I was kind of like watching on my phone on a email. It's a completely different experience watching it as it comes out live, and people all around the country are kind of like sat in their living rooms and ready to consume it at the same time as you. There's something very magical about that. It's kind of like a curtain coming up in the theatre.
Do you think that she thought of you when she was writing Kwame?
Absolutely not. I know that for a fact. She told me to my face that it never even crossed her mind, which is like a real backhanded compliment or a compliment cased cuss. Like, I think it's amazing. I'm so in love with Paapa, and I feel so privileged to have been given the opportunity to realize him. But like, I do also understand why it's not always an advantage being a mate of their show.
And the same with the character, because Arabella and Kwame, they have a sort of a powerful relationship that's really dependent, and they really need each other. They're very entwined in their same ways.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Obviously, they're codependent, and they kind of pride themselves on being able to be there for each other and supportive for each other, but also they kind of like properly like miss each other quite at various points in the series, and their communication channels kind of like break down at various points. And obviously, they're both going through such enormous things. It's quite difficult to experience some of the things that they're experiencing together. Sometimes you have to do those things alone, or at least they try to.
Did you feel that you were playing someone that was, a rather special person in that respect, and that felt real?
For him to feel real was like the absolute most important thing to me from the jump. Like, I was never sure about like how he would necessarily be received. I wasn't actually particularly concerned with like people liking him, but I did want people to be able to relate to him and to recognise him.
How's the journey? Is it right?
Yeah, it was good, thank you. Yeah. Oh my God, you're seeing my face up close for the first time. I'm shitting it.
Don't. What are you talking about? You're stunning.
Oh well, nerve-wracking when the veil goes.
You're gorgeous. I love your hair.
Don't say that you like my hair. It's the only thing I know cannot be liked by anybody. It's awful.
What?
I have a hat in my bag. That's how much I hate my hair.
You carry a hat in your bag?
Every one of these things.
Oh, yeah? So how does that work?
Well, I sit across from you, and if I see your eyes darting up to my hair, then I excuse myself to the toilet and I come back. Like this.
No.
Yeah, seriously. I like to do what I can to make it a pleasurable experience for both parties.
A pleasurable experience?
Yeah.
Right, well, we should drink to that. Yeah.
A G&T would be amazing, thank you.
So I'm going to ask you, Paapa, now the question I have to ask everyone on this show. Paapa Essiedu, have you seen anything good lately? What have you been watching? What have you seen that's good recently?
Oh my God, imagine if I said no.
Well, I tell you what, I've seen Gangs of London and May Destroy You. I'll start you on those, but you can't. You haven't even seen them.
I've either of those, so I couldn't speak on that. But I was watching. I watched this like film on Netflix the other day called Disclosure, and it's about like the representation of trans individuals historically in like Hollywood and on television, and like the journey from that in kind of like 50s, 60s type time up until now, and like looking at that journey. And I found that really, like, I suppose, informative, but also like really inspiring. And it's like a really well made film, so I definitely recommend that.
Is that a doc or a fiction?
It's a documentary.
Yeah. Disclosure. No, I haven't seen that one. I mean, on the same thing, I don't know if you watched. Did you watch Pose? Any of Pose?
No, that's like on my list. I haven't seen that yet.
I loved it. Yeah, I love both the seasons of that. Extraordinary performances in there, but you know, it kind of goes with that trans rights thing going on, but very gently in there. What else have you seen then? Disclosure is a great recommendation.
I've seen Disclosure. What else have I watched? I watched that. Have you seen Devs? Alex Garland's vehicle. I've got that
all. What do we call it? Recorded, backed up. Like, you know, on the player to have a look at.
I'd say that, yeah, I really loved it. I thought it was like a really interesting kind of look at, you know, like right now, all of us are kind of like getting super introspective and like seeing ourselves and looking at our societies. There was like looking at like, I suppose like the effect of like algorithms on like predicting our future, where we're going.
And did you? I don't know if you've been. So those are kind of like drama series. Are you like? Do you watch old movies? Are you a kind of a movie fan? Have you got any particular kind of areas that you love to, or directors that you love?
I mean, so many. Like, I love films like that. I think that's probably one of the things that I've missed most about lockdown. The cinemas being shut down. But yeah, I saw a film the other week. I think the actor's called Irfan Khan. He died.
Yeah, he did.
I watched a film with this called The Lunchbox.
Oh, yes.
Which is a kind of like Indian-French co-production about, which essentially kind of like, I wouldn't call it a rom-com, but it is funny and it is like heart-wrenchingly, like the relationship at the center of it is heart-wrenchingly like beautiful. So like it's a film with elements of romance, elements of comedy.
It is
like astonishingly beautifully acted and directed, and yeah, I've never seen. I hadn't seen many of his films. I've seen Slumdog and I've seen Life of Pi, but I hadn't seen him front and center. And yeah, I think he's an incredible actor and a huge loss.
Yeah, he is. He's a great. He was a great. Great stillness as well. An actor that actually interesting that you relate to him. Actually, there's a bit of you in some. Well, from what I've seen of you in his performances as well. He started out with my friend Asif Kapadia. He was in his film The Warrior. Long time ago, Asif's first film, and then he was in a beautiful film for Mira Naya as well before The Lunchbox. Then I just was so pleased to see him in that Lunchbox, and that's an incredible film about city life, isn't it? And how the connections kind of get in there, and there's a bit of luck, and it's a real system. You know, they have those Lunchbox. That's real stuff in Mumbai. You know, people send out these tiffin boxes. And it's the most complicated system, I think, in the world, apparently, and very rarely does it go wrong. Dan, what have you been reading? Have you taken much time to do reading?
Yeah. I mean, I've read *Sapiens* recently. I don't know. I'm sure someone's spoken about that.
They haven't actually. I think one of the first people to pick that, actually.
It's amazing. Again, like it's a book. So *Sapiens* is a book about our species and like how we kind of like went from just being another Homo, kind of like the Neanderthals or Homo erectus or whatever, why the Sapiens race historically became the dominant species on this planet, which is again like kind of like very prescient now, because especially like with the climate change conversation that is also underpinning everything that we're talking about, but like this like so-called amazing all-powerful species has been very quickly kind of like pinned down.
Yeah, by, like, we can be brought to our knees pretty quickly, right?
A virus that's jumped from a bat, you know. So it's not it's quite interesting. I read that, and I read a book called I'm reading a book called Safe by Derek Owusu, which is about kind of like black men reclaiming space, black British men but reclaiming space, and it's a kind of collection of essays by amazing black men writing about being black in Britain.
Mm-hmm. Do they get it got very many different representations of that? Do you relate to each and every one of them, each one building a little narrative for you to relate to?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, it's not a monolithic experience. There's no such thing as like the archetypal black man or black woman or black anything. It's like there's a whole spectrum of experience in every single way within us, but like I feel like it's so, especially like in representation in art or on television, like you can very quickly find ourselves reduced to stereotypes of like being criminalized or impoverished or hypersexualized or whatever. Like it's an amazing kind of cross section of lots of different types of people.
Yeah, because I did read Girl, Woman, Other, which is a representation of many types of black women, actually, by Bernardine Evaristo. Beautiful book, and I love that. But interesting, a male perspective would be. When I was reading it, I was thinking this is great to be in so many women's skins in this book, but it would be good to be in the masculine version of that too.
Yeah, just read it. It's called
Safe, excellent. I've been loving the soundtrack to I May Destroy You. I don't know what your jams are, what you've been listening to.
Listening to what have I been listening to? Listening to kind of like jazz collective called Kokoroko.
I love them. Yeah,
guys on the pod, but like they've got a kind of EP which I think is self-titled, which like immediately calms me down whenever like there is something about the cadence of their music that's so relaxing and beautiful.
Oh, they're joyous. Where did you see them?
Saw them at the Roundhouse.
Yes, I did too.
They were incredible.
Are you a jazz fan in general, or?
No, I'm not trying to come across as any sort of like connoisseur, but you know what you like when you hear it. And I just love to like sit in the sunshine, like drinking or whatever, reading a book and listening to that. It's like beautiful.
Beautiful to speak to you, Paapa. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your viewing recommendations, and thank you so much for keeping us, the nation, entertained over these last few months. You're like Bruce Forsyth, you know.
I never thought I'd get that comparison. So thank you.
And listen, when you see Michaela, please send her a big love, lots of love, and thank her for that series, because I think you guys have done some really important work with that show.
Thank you. I'll definitely pass that on to her.
Brilliant. Paapa Essiedu, thank you so much indeed. And you can and you must watch Paapa Essiedu in I May Destroy You on BBC iPlayer now, while the first season of Gangs of London is on Sky Atlantic and Now TV. My next guest is Kelly O'Sullivan, who is one of the rare people who can claim to have a film actually out in the cinemas this summer. The film is called St. Francis, and Kelly wrote it and stars in it. It's directed by her partner Alex, and it's a comedy about a 30-something, played by Kelly herself, who gains new meaning to her life when she starts nannying for a precocious 6-year-old Francis. It's a film that full-on confronts bodily functions and societal taboos around women.
Why did he keep calling me Joan Jett?
It's a compliment.
My name is Francis.
You want to be Joan Jett, trust me. She was one of the great rock stars. Really angry, lots of statement eyeliner. I wonder if she's dead now.
Why was she angry?
Because she was born into a patriarchy and it effing sucked.
What's a patriarchy?
It's where men are in charge and women have to do what they say.
My guitar class is a patriarchy.
Congratulations on the movie, Kelly.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
That's an absolute pleasure. I see from our Zoom call that you are surrounded by the detritus of your life. What's going on?
It's so true. I'm drowning in boxes. So we're moving from one apartment to another in the middle of a pandemic, which I do not recommend.
Well, I suppose your film is about someone who acquires some new baggage in her life when she wasn't looking for it, because that's what you get when you befriend a precocious, was she 6 years old, 4 years old?
Yeah, 6 years old, yeah.
Where did you get her from? Where did you find this actress that you act opposite?
Oh, she's amazing. So we did a search through PR Casting, which is a casting house here in Chicago. And we saw at max 30 young girls. And she was the youngest person who we saw. She was 5 years old when she walked into the room and just like impossibly tiny. To me, just, looked like a larger version of a baby. And it's kind of irresponsible. It's considered irresponsible to cast somebody so young, but she was the least coached and she was the most real. And I think that shows up in her performance, that she's not, trying to pretend to be some version of a precocious child. She's just a smart, fun kid. And she brought that to the role.
Yeah, that's what's really nice about it, because we do see a lot of American movies where they're clearly, the kid's been doing Shakespeare soliloquies since they were 2.
That's right. Yeah. Or Disney Channel, even worse, that they've been trained to be like really sassy and always mug to the camera. And she just doesn't do any of that.
And how close is the character St. Francis? I mean, you wrote the piece originally. How close was that tapping into your own experiences as a drifting 20-something, 30-something?
It's pretty close. I like to say that Bridget is me in an alternate universe. I think I have my life a little bit more figured out, like maybe 20% more than Bridget does. But all of her feelings are based on real feelings that I have, which are, frustration at the amount of success, quote unquote, that we're supposed to have achieved by a certain age, and the way that women are forced to think about having children in a way that men aren't by a certain age. So I have certainly felt adrift in my life like Bridget before, and I used that to write the character.
It's because you're in a profession that happens in a lot. You almost have to take control, it seems, when you're making such I know this isn't your debut, but let's call it a breakthrough for you in some way. In your business, you have to kind of seize the moment yourself if no one's going to hand it to you. And that's what you've done here, isn't it? Writing and using a very close relationship to get it directed.
Yeah, that's right. At a certain point, you're either going to play sad mom number 2 forever, if that's the road that you're going down, or you're going to take the power into your own hands and write something, not necessarily for yourself, but something that brings your own voice to the table.
So when you were writing it, did you know that it was going to be you playing it? Was that always the idea? You were writing a part for yourself here out of frustration at not having got one or won one or auditioned for one in a way?
It really started with the writing. The writing was the most important thing. And then eventually I thought, well, we'll figure out if it should be me to play the part. But it wasn't like I want to write something for myself to play. It was more just I want to write something and I want to make it feel real and authentic. And then as it became clear we were actually going to get to make the film, since it was written in my voice, Alex, the director, and my partner was like, well, duh, you should play this. Nobody else should play this. And then I always joke with him too, that I financially was free for the film. So, it saved the film a lot of money by casting myself.
Didn't it? Well, I mean, I think you're doing a fabulous job, and it's a really, really, great little part that you've written for someone, and it just happened to be you that came along and seized it.
I know. Thank God I got the part.
And the whole milieu that you set it in, is that something that is that an area you're familiar with? Because you're in Chicago right now, but you set it in the sort of Portland Northwest area, isn't that right?
It's set in the suburbs of Chicago.
Oh, right. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's set in like wealthy suburbs on the north side of Chicago, right by Northwestern, which is where I actually went to college.
Oh, it is? Okay, so you really know it.
Yeah, I used to nanny up there when I was in my 20s.
Oh, okay, so we're getting closer and closer to some kind of experience. Yeah.
That's right.
But it's a really interesting way, isn't it, that nanny thing? Because it's explored in movies before, but normally the nanny is some kind of hand that rocks the cradle, psychotic character, right. or they're a seducer, like in Sex and the City with a hot nanny, for example.
That's right. Yeah.
When
most nannies are just much more normal, much more everyday, like people who you would meet and be friends with out on the street. And they happen to have this really, interesting job of coming in and being a surrogate parent 5 times a week.
And the couple that you do it for, that adds another little interesting layer. Was that did they develop, or was that always how you conceived them to be a sort of lesbian power couple?
I always knew that I wanted them to be a lesbian couple, and that I wanted them to have means. I knew that this would be a film that would try to normalize a lot of things that have been traditionally othered. And I also knew that I wanted to centralize female voices. And so knowing that, I knew that I was going to build a cast of predominantly female characters who are going through issues. And for Maya and Annie, it's not based on their sexuality. It's based on the struggles of parenting.
Is it a comedy? Do you call it a comedy? I thought it was funny.
I guess so. I'll take that. I mean, if it makes people laugh, I'm happy about that. It was intentionally lighthearted and intentionally had a sense of humor.
Well, I enjoyed it very much, Kelly, so congratulations on that. But during this time, have you seen anything good lately, Kelly O'Sullivan? What have you been up to? What have you been watching?
Yeah, so we've been watching a lot of Otto Preminger movies, specifically Anatomy of a Murder was a film that I had never seen before and that I think is just wild and fascinating.
So for anyone who hasn't seen it, just tell us briefly what it is and who's in the doc and who's in it.
Oh God, let's see if I can remember. So is it Peter Fonda? Who is it? I'm talking to Alex. Jimmy Stewart. Yeah, Jimmy Stewart. Okay, so he's like a retired lawyer. Is that correct? And he gets this case. Somebody approaches him and says that a woman was raped and her husband killed the man who raped her. Yeah. And so then it's about the court case that comes as a result of that. And for me, the really fascinating part of it was the woman at the center of this case, who is very sexual. She feels very sex positive to me, but so much of the film is about through my lens, how do we view women who are like that in cases of rape? And the treatment of women in that film is really, really fascinating, where she like takes her hair down in the trial where they're deciding whether or not, she was raped, and the whole audience goes at how beautiful she is. It's just really strange.
I do love a courtroom drama myself. It's one of my favorite genres, I have to say.
Oh, it's so addicting. If it's done well, it feels thrilling. It really does.
What struck you about that one, having not seen it? What were you expecting in a way from an Otto Preminger?
I think I was expecting it to be a little more cookie cutter, but the fact that it is so odd and that it does feel more character based, I was really surprised. And again, just the treatment of women, I couldn't really put my finger on how I felt about it. I'm still dissecting that for myself, but the entire movie, I kept looking over at Alex and just saying, like, this is bizarre. This movie is so bizarre.
Yeah, I remember really being totally hooked by it the first time I saw it, and the style of it. You're right, because it's gripping, but there's a sort of, it is old fashioned. It's 1959, so there's that stylization of the acting, which is interesting as well. But then Jimmy Stewart's so normal; he's such an everyman in a way, but so powerful in that one. So you caught up with Anatomy of Murder. Good choice, actually. Might follow your lead and take it there. What else have you been watching? What else have you seen?
Then we've been watching TV shows. We are obsessed with Top Chef, which is just a cooking competition show, and Alex is a phenomenal cook. So we've been watching that. And then we've been watching a TV show called Black AF. I don't know if you've seen this.
Yes, I have. We have it here too. Yeah, exactly. Black AF. I haven't actually watched it. So what is Black? I keep thinking I should watch this. I like the title. I like the idea. But what is it?
It's really fascinating. It's about this Black writer, and his name is Kenya Barris, and he created Blackish, and he's this incredibly prolific writer, and it's about his life, basically. It's about his experience as a Black writer and with his family who is Black, and they have this incredible success and live in Hollywood, but it's about the intricacies and nuance of, I think, the Black experience.
So is it a drama they've set it up in a bit, or is it a documentary in some way? I've seen clips of it and I couldn't work out how they're doing it, because it seems scripted.
Yeah, so it's a faux documentary. It's sort of like The Office or, Parks and Rec, where there's a camera crew. There's a daughter who I think is applying to NYU film school. And so she's making this documentary about her family.
That makes sense. Now I'm seeing why. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's a comedy, and it's really funny, but it also is so smart in the way that it explores, I think, what it's like to be a very successful Black writer in Hollywood.
It seems to have some celebrity cameos in it. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, we just watched an episode that had Lena Waithe and Issa Rae, and I think, and Rashida Jones plays the wife. So it's full of incredible celebrities.
Yes, definitely. Great recommendation. I think I might go for that one as well. I've been skirting around that one for a while, and I don't know why, because it's exactly the sort of thing I like, and I love Blackish that he did before. So that's a good one. So that's Telly. And Top Chef, is he going to enter? I'd like to know if the director of St. Francis is going to enter Top Chef. We need to know. I
think he would love to, but those chefs are the real deal. They've been in the restaurant business for decades.
Oh, that's the professionals one, right? Because we have Master Chef where amateurs take part, and that's the real big one.
I think Alex would love to be part of a cooking show. We'll see if we can get him to apply to one of those. He'd be fantastic.
And have you been listening to anything good lately, Kelly O'Sullivan, or reading?
I have. Yeah, so I don't know if you know the Daily Podcast. It's the New York Times podcast that happens here in the States, and it's just a daily dissection of what's been going on in the news. And I always find it to be incredibly informative and incredibly depressing right now.
Yeah, right now, of course. So that drops that drops on your inbox every day, and you did that. That's your catch up, is it?
That's right. Yeah, that's how I get my daily dose of reality. So that I don't go out to bars, and so that I don't pack myself in rooms with other people. They tell me every day, don't do that, and I listen.
Yes, well, they're probably right, although we're doing it in London very soon, so I'll let you know how it goes. And
yeah, let me know.
Yeah, well, they'll be watching your film, so it's either your fault or, congratulations.
Just be careful, people. Just be careful. Be safe.
Kelly O'Sullivan, thank you so much for joining me. Lovely to hear from you. I'll leave you to packing your boxes and getting that move done. Meanwhile, congratulations on St. Francis. I hope it does really well for you. I think it has done already, and I really enjoyed watching it. And congratulations to your partner, Alex, for directing it so well too.
Yes, of course. I will let him know. I'll scream it back into the other room right now. Good job, Alex. He says, oh, thank you.
He takes a bow.
That's right.
Kelly and Sullivan, thanks so much for joining me. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Have a good day.
And St. Francis is out now in certain cinemas in London and around Europe, but also on many streaming platforms. And that's it for the latest Seen Anything Good Lately. I'll put up all my guests' mentions and recommendations on the website, jasonsolomons.com. And don't forget, that's where you can also get in touch to tell me if you've seen anything good lately. Just email saggle@jasonsolomons.com, and you can catch all the past episodes too, with guests including David Thewlis, Greta Scacchi, Mark Cousins, Joe Hartley, and so many more. Thanks for listening. Have you seen anything good lately?